Besides being able to attract these UFOs, they were also able to communicate with these lights. They kind of became friends, didn't they? Okay, I know you know that I am Carol Capel, your favorite alien, but do I have to introduce myself to the new subscribers? Yes, they arrive every day. By the way, speaking of new subscribers, if you haven't subscribed to the Shorts channel yet, you need to subscribe because there I post short, quick videos about things that happen in daily life and that are extremely relevant. Sometimes I don't have time to record a long video here for this channel, so to follow the new channel, just click up here on the cards or down here on the link in the description. Besides that, I also opened this channel here for members so you can join because there are several benefits. Just click down here on Become a Member and come join us. And last but not least, yes, we do have a group on Telegram where I share with you all the news about this channel. So when a video comes out, when there will be a live everything, absolutely everything, I share there. So you won't miss absolutely anything. Follow the group on Telegram, which is free, and you'll always stay well informed. Now, every time something related to UFOs happens, in the United States, they quickly rush to blame Russia and China. Have you noticed that? Every time they need to announce what's going on, they say, "Oh, we're being spied on." Either by Russia or by China, right? Like that story back in 2023, for example, right? The story of the Chinese balloon, which was actually an unidentified flying object that was shot down in Canada. The same thing happens on the other side. When there's an unidentified flying object hovering over Russia or China, they quickly claim that actually they're being spied on by the United States. It turns into a ping pong game. Each side blames the other, and no one, absolutely no one, has an answer for the phenomenon. The root of the phenomenon, the explanation we want to have, well, we will never have it. And I even think they do all this on purpose, you know, exactly to fool our little minds. Don't doubt it, really don't. Then we're all here with our dumb faces, waiting for someone to say something about these things, and with absolutely no explanation at all. And no one says anything about absolutely anything. Some things appear in the sky that have totally advanced technology, extremely more advanced than ours. And here on this channel, we talk more often about the cases that happen in the United States because those cases reach us much faster. But what about what happens in Russia? And all the strange things that are being reported over there since the Soviet Union. Well, is it now that you're going to start laying a delicious blue egg through the hole in the sky? Yes, the Soviet Union did an experiment to try to summon UFOs. But is that even possible? Did it work? Well, I can already tell you that it did. It really worked. And this story is really bizarre. This story I'm going to tell you here was posted by the news portal called Russia Beyond. And in this news story, they talk about how the former Russian Komitet Gosudarstvennoy Bezopasnosti created a plan to attract UFOs. And all of this came to light after they asked Dmitry Medvedev, the Russian Prime Minister, if he had received a folder with secret and classified documents about UFOs. And he confirmed it. He said that he did receive it, but that he couldn't talk much about this case. After that, some other statements from the 1960s by Felix Zegel, who is a Russian ufologist, appeared. He created a huge organization for ufological studies in Russia. And his work is very serious and even scares me a little. So, for 18 years, he started gathering cases and investigating on his own. And he came across a very specific case. Something that's very bizarre and at the same time very important. What happened is that a very strange unidentified flying object appeared in Pedrozavodsky, this unidentified flying object that you're seeing right now. It was a very strong and very bright light that was seen by hundreds of people for hours. And this image of the unidentified flying object that I'm showing you is the real image. At the time, the case was so big that several countries around the Soviet Union asked for explanations. Like Denmark, like Finland, because this unidentified flying object was also seen around the Soviet Union, not just inside the Soviet Union. The phenomenon was so big, but so big, that military radars from other countries were able to detect it. And the Soviet Union said they had no idea what that was. But the case was so absurd that it reached the ears of Anatoly Alexandrov, who was a physicist that played a crucial role in the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons development program. He wrote a letter and sent it to the Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti leaders at the time, saying that he was aware of these objects and that these objects always appeared around the nuclear plants he was working at, and that this case was a matter of national security, and that he was very concerned. This letter was received by Vasily Eremenko, and this man held one of the highest ranks within the Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti. He then returns the letter to Anatoly Alexandrov, explaining that during his time supervising at the Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti, he became part of a committee specialized in studying the unidentified flying object phenomenon, and that in 1980 they created an experiment to summon to attract unidentified flying object S, to try to attract these so-called unidentified flying objects. And they noticed that these UFOs always appeared in areas of military tension. So to summon these UFOs, they did the following. They increased the number of fighter jet flights, even when absolutely nothing was happening. And these planes would take off loaded with the highest technology devices of that time. And according to Vasily and Eremenko, in 100% of the cases, the UFOs would appear. And they were always luminous spheres. And the military involved in this experiment began to get used to the presence of these mysterious lights. And so they tried to establish contact, to establish some kind of connection. And how did they do that? The military who were at the base, that is on the ground, would move their right arm, and the UFOs would automatically move to the right. Then they would all point, move their left arm together, and automatically these UFOs would move to the left. In other words, besides being able to attract these UFOs, they were also able to communicate with these lights. They kind of became friends, right? Friends with the UFOs. And that's when the Russian military drew two conclusions about this case. The first is that it was a natural phenomenon, but intelligent, a phenomenon that had intelligence, something that defied the scientific understanding of the time, and that still defies current scientific understanding. They believed that it was some form of natural life that accompanies the development of planet Earth. Beings that have always been here, but in a completely secretive way, in a silent way. That reminds me of that video about the crypto-terrestrials, remember? Yeah, that video about the crypto-terrestrials shows a Harvard study that has now reached the exact same conclusions in 2024. Those are the same conclusions that the Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti and the Soviet Union had already reached back then, in 1980. The second conclusion they reached with these studies is that these lights could indeed be some kind of extraterrestrial intelligence. Well, what a surprise, right? Well, nowadays, in the year 2024, more than 40 years after this experiment, do you really think they still haven't discovered anything about these unidentified flying object cases? Do you really think so? Seriously, being naive is worse than being crazy. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here with another video. And yes, in today's video we do have a magic word, as always. And today's magic word is deluded. Comment deluded down below in the comments in honor of the human race, because that's exactly what we are. We are deluded, and I always say that being deluded is worse than being crazy, right? Well, I'll stop here, and I'll see you then, if Russia and the United States allow it, in our next video.